Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Quickcast. This is episode number 5, and this was a request to give my opinion on how often should a physique competitor compete. Now, I'm going to lump all the divisions and do my best to keep this within 5 or 6 minutes. I know I've talked about this a number of times on different podcasts. I certainly touched upon it. So if I'm repeating myself, sorry, but this is strictly about how often one should compete to have progress. Now, there are outliers. Yes, there are people that can improve every single year. But for the most of us, that progress will slow down. It's inevitable when you're a natural competitor. Now, another variable is sometimes people ask, well, if I'm younger or older, I'm going to take that out of the equation. I'm going to talk about years of training, not when you particularly start, because if you compare someone that is 40 years old and started, they're going to have significant progress. It's going to be relative to them, but they're going to have significant progress. Compared to a 20-year-old, same idea. Their progress might be faster because they're younger and they have better hormonal response and all that good stuff. But I'm not going to go in too deep with that. Maybe favoring, a take-home point before I go a little bit deeper is that, yes, if you are older, then you do need more time. So I just backpedaled. All right, so let's just say that you competed in your first show. Give you that baseline. You competed. Now, it really depends on how well you did, how much muscle you have, how lean you got, because that can also dictate how frequently you compete. But if you're a beginner, and I would say 3 years, maybe 5 years of weight training, and you compete for the first time, I do feel you can then compete the following year and make progress. And then once again, compete the following year and make progress. So you've done 3 shows in 3 years with weight training of 3 to 5, and you're going to make progress. But then that magic happens where your body is going to need more time to recover in between, competitions, where because it makes sense, because what happens is that every time you compete, you are going to get leaner, you are going to be more muscular, so therefore you're going to need more recovery time. That is something that people forget because they get so excited. They do a couple shows back-to-back years. They do improve, and they think that's going to continue. But when you get better, it becomes harder on the body to recover. That means you are doing it right. So if you diet down for 3 to 4 months for a show on that third year of competing, you're going to need 3 to 4 months at least to recover because you pushed your body that much harder. So therefore, every prep actually gets shorter. Give you a prime example. When I competed the last time a few years ago, I dieted for almost a year just because that was my preference. And it took me 6 months to recover. So I knew I can't compete the following year. Obviously not. That is something that you have to take in consideration, because if you are getting better, and that is the goal, your physique's looking better, you're getting leaner, you're getting more muscle, no matter what the division, you're going to need that much more recovery time. And sometimes people don't realize that because they get such a high for being on stage. They love the accolades. They love the social media presence. And that drives them instead of actually physically getting better. I have seen people that come out of the gate, they look fantastic, right? They look awesome on stage. They make it to the pro level real fast, do well at the pro level. And instead of thinking, all right, going back to the drawing board, letting the body recover, they will compete the next couple of years and they look the same. Yeah, they may do well, but physically, they're not relatively gaining any better, and they're just beating a dead horse. It's almost like a show pony. They're just putting themselves out there and hoping to win eventually, instead of digging deep, stepping back, and then wanting to improve. So that's why I always think if when you reach a certain level and you pass that 5 years of weight training and you've competed maybe 3 times or so, then you got to give yourself some time off. Where if you competed in 2022, you've been at it for a while, you've done a few shows, come back 2024 at the soonest, okay? Because that will guarantee yourself and your body to recover, those few months to recover, to regain balance and flexibility with your diet. Keep yourself in a good place so you don't get fat, so therefore your next prep is not as hard. And you can give yourself a good 12 to 16 months to build the body, right? This is bodybuilding. It's about building your body, and it depends. I mean, it doesn't matter what division you're doing. So that's where the frequency comes into play. Now, yes, there are outliers where you can make progress every single year, right? I mean, you can compete 5 years in a row, you make progress, you have great genetics. That's good for you, but that's a small percentage. If you look at the top pros, and they've been competing for over 10 years, they may compete every 2 or 3 years just because they put in their body through hell. They need to recover and then basically improve and make that significant difference. Now, the differences aren't going to be as great because you are getting older. That's inevitable. That's a hard truth. So you have to accept that. But it makes the experience that much better. So you have options. You can compete as often as you like. If you're happy, you're having fun, self-improvement is, just looking great on stage, go for it. Have at it. Freedom of choice. Do what you want with your body. But to make significant progress, and if you've been competing for a few years already, you need that time off to allow the hormones to come back, and you'll know it. People get blood work, but you can feel it when they do come back, or if they're out of whack. Let the body recover, learn what your happy weight is, and that's actually going to be another podcast I do. Learn what your happy weight is, hold that, focus on strength, give yourself enough time to diet down without pushing yourself or doing anything drastic. Now, I think some of the issues is that there's pressure. There's pressure from coaches, okay? I'm not going to call out any specific coaches because I see it across the board all over the country where coaches will just put people out. They're like, yes, sure, compete. They're not looking out for their clients because they want, more social media presence and all that stuff and just throw people out there because they really don't care. They're just focusing on the dollars and just like, hey, look at such and such. She did awesome. Blah, blah, blah. Instead of actually caring about the client, taking self-interest in them and say, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I know you just competed this past fall and you want to do something again next fall, but you've been at it for a few years. You really need to give your body and your mind a break so you can come back significantly better with the proper planning. Now, if you're young or if you're a little bit older, again, I do believe, and it's new to your body, the first few years coming out of the gate and you have a decent physique, you can make those progress and those gains. You really can. You can make differences in your body. But when you break that threshold of maybe 5 years of weight training and you have like at least 3 shows under your belt, time to reevaluate and pull back a little bit. That's just my take through my experience of coaching all these years. Some clients will be like, no, Joe, I'm competing no matter what. I will still tell them how I feel and give them all the options. And if that's what makes them happy, sure. But I never hold back only because I'm looking out for their health, first of all. And second of all, I want them to have a significant improvement from the next time they step on stage. And sometimes that's a hard decision. One added point I would like to bring up is that if you are a new competitor, I do suggest to try to string 2 shows together within a month's time frame. You can gain a lot of knowledge through the experience of the actual competition and how your body responds, and then make those slight tweaks where even if it's a small percentage better, it will be a greater presence the next time you compete. Same goes for those who do take a break. for a year or two from competing, come back, pick 2 or 3 shows and put them in a month's time frame, because your body was really well recovered and you're probably that much more excited, and lay it out all on the line. I've had clients, and I've said this in previous podcasts, where they may not compete for a while and they'll do 3 shows within, a month or maybe 2 months period. That's stretching it out. But you tend to get harder, you get better looking. And, typically through my guidance, we can peak you a little bit better by adding more carbs or doing what is necessary for that person. So regardless of level that you're at and the break that you have, I do suggest to try to string a couple of shows together in a time frame that works best for you. So this is becoming more than a quick cast as I'm approaching 10 minutes, but I really couldn't keep it under 5. But I'm going to count it as a quick cast anyway. So hopefully this has been helpful. I know there's this topic I can probably talk another 10 minutes on, but just a basic guideline. And a quick review is that, yes, it's up to the person. Yes, there are outliers that can compete more frequently and make progress. And you want to do what makes you happy. But bodybuilding is about building your body over time to make improvements in your physique, so every time you show it off by doing a contest, you can look back and be proud of what you did. So this is something that you can think about. If you have a coach, you think about. But the threshold is usually 3 to 5 years of weight training, of solid right weight training, competing a few times, and then I think it's always a good idea to step back a little bit. So I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Thank you for listening and for sharing. The feedback has been great over the last few weeks of doing these quick casts. Like wherever I post this up, share it, do all that good stuff, because my goal here is to help. If you're interested in coaching, fitness orientated, competition orientated, reach out to me. Okay. FitFranco@Verizon.net. Check out Team Franco Bodybuilding on the social media platforms, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.